My name is Emily Gerbers. I'm the Vice President of Business Development at MD Logistics. When MD Logistics was first founded by Mark Sell and Dave Keebach, they were freight forwarders and they were moving freight for a pharmaceutical organization. And that pharmaceutical company said, "We need a place to store our product. Can you help us?" And they immediately said yes. And then they figured it out. And I think that's been a lot of our history since then. We've grown up a lot since then, but we've always remained very entrepreneurial in spirit. But what that allowed us to do as an organization is to say, we will figure it out for the client.
I think it's important to note that both Mark and Dave came from business development backgrounds early in their career. So they were customer facing right up until they founded MD Logistics. And I think that carries through at MD Logistics in the sense that the customer is in the center of everything we do. You know, their relationship was kind of humorous. They were absolutely wonderful mentors for me, first and foremost. I learned a lot from them. But I gave them both my opinion of their relationship one day, and that Dave Keebach, with his, I guess, gregarious personality, could get into any customer door and knock down every single customer door and say, "Yes, we can do that," and move on to the next guy, and "Yes, we can do that." And Mark would follow behind and say, "No, we can't do that, but we can do this, sign here." And that's kind of the way they complemented each other. Certainly they started the culture in that have fun. Who says you can't do good business and have fun while you're doing it? And I think that is rooted in Mark and Dave in the early days on. When MD was founded, there were 7 of us. And we did a lot of different things. We weren't just specialized in warehousing. Some of that would grow later, but we were a small company. So when something needed to be done, whether it was your job or not, everybody pitched in and did it. I mean, there were days when I would work in the air export department until 7, 8 o'clock at night, and then go out on the warehouse floor and pick boxes, or get up from my desk every morning at 11 a.m. and go cross dock to Puerto Rico pharmaceutical freight. It was just, and I like to think that that's still our culture today: a willingness to do whatever it takes, a willingness to take care of our customer, a willingness to help each other. Given the commodity that we handle and the fact that it is we're managing a cold chain, certainly the customer has a desire to always mitigate risk within the supply chain. So that drove our decision to open a West Coast solution in Reno, Nevada. It allows us to reach those 12 Western markets rather quickly and again minimize that exposure of being out in the supply chain.
What drove us out to Reno is actually through an RFP originally with one client where they wanted a portion of their business here in the Indianapolis area, but they also wanted a portion out on the West Coast for a couple of reasons. One, to have inventory out there for speed to market with the West Coast customers. But another reason was around business continuity and risk mitigation. You'll find a lot within the life science, pharmaceutical industry that they think a lot about risk and what they can do to help mitigate that. And one big portion of that is making sure they don't have all their inventory at one site. That's what initially drove us out there, was a client. But once we got out there, we found when we got into some other RFPs with some clients we have today, they wanted that as well for the same reasons. So of our big 3 pharma clients, they've all either have utilized the Reno facility or they continue to utilize the Reno facility. But another big advantage of having that out there is a lot of West Coast biological customers out there, where a majority of their client base is on the West Coast.
And then the reason we moved to Garner, North Carolina was a bit different in that Research Triangle Park, by its very essence, is heavily geared towards pharmaceutical manufacturing. So we moved up the supply chain in order to support manufacturing. By going there, it also gave us then an East Coast presence around forward distribution of finished goods as well. So it was a win-win. The acquisition process was an interesting one, frankly. We were pursued some years ago by Nippon Express, and certainly they came back They were attractive to us because more than anyone we spoke to, they had a vision for what we could be to them, where MD Logistics could go, and how we could complement their global offering. And we felt that we were aligned with that vision, but also two other very important parts is they valued their employees, just like we have always valued ours, and they're very customer focused and customer driven, just like MD Logistics is. So that made it attractive. I guess what we didn't anticipate was they had us outnumbered. Mark and Jeff and I, of course, we had financial support and we had legal support, but they came with an army, and some of the big consulting firms, and it became apparent very early on that there's 100 of them and about a dozen of us. I'd be remiss that if I didn't add the fact that we were working really hard toward a closing date at the end of 2019, and we had a couple of things slip and push us into 2020, and we were still working towards getting it done. And lo and behold, we have a global pandemic on our hands, and we're trying to work with a company based out of Tokyo with offices all over the place, consultants all over the place, legal firms all over the place, and it became quite a logistical challenge, if you will. But nonetheless, we were successful in getting it done.
When I think about the acquisition and how important it was for us to find a partner that would still invest in our people and our culture and support some of that energy and help propel our growth, that was what really made me excited about Nippon as our acquisition partner. I don't know that I ever really thought about MDL not being privately owned when I first joined the organization, but admittedly, when you grow an organization and you're privately owned, you can only go so far. And then the right thing to do for the organization and for the client is to find an investment partner who's going to continue to support those same business goals and that same client base. And that's what we were able to do. So I'm very proud of that.
When you talk about that relationship, you have to look at the phenomenal top line growth that we've experienced over just these last few years. Very consistent double-digit growth. I mentioned earlier our 5-year goal around here is to double the size, and I think we're trending towards it. And that goal gets more and more difficult as you grow, of course. We had a vision that they could help us fuel growth and drive growth, and they've certainly done that. It's been quite evident to everyone. And I think we were very attractive to them because we gave them immediate footprint in the United States within the life science pharmaceutical sectors. Mark and our ownership, they did a great job as far as trying to go out and find somebody that wanted to invest in us, the people, not just acquire the business. And I think we truly found that. Probably the biggest change was just financial accountability. I know we wouldn't be in North Carolina if it wasn't for Nippon Express. We just put in a new state-of-the-art conveyor at one of our facilities for our largest customer because they continue to grow. I never dreamed it would grow to this. It's been so much fun. I'm still fairly young, but I've had such a fulfilling career. I really have, and I have MD Logistics to thank for that. Mark had a saying, and it's so very true: growth brings opportunity for everyone. So we were driven to grow in order to bring opportunity for everyone. Everyone has opportunity if we're growing. Today, we are in 4 buildings in this park, the Reno facility. And most recently, we opened up a facility in Garner, North Carolina, right outside of the Raleigh-Durham market. Our square footage, our footprint is beyond 1 million square feet. There was nothing that really allowed me to envision this. Like I said, that one of the great things with MD and why I hired on was their openness to grow, to change, to be able to wear a lot of hats, to know there's going to be a lot of opportunity, but to be able to envision where we're at today, I couldn't have, and I'm sure I'll be saying the same thing in 10 years from now. So it's been a great ride, and I look forward to what it has to bring in the future.
It's been a really, really exciting time to see how the company has grown. And I think, especially in recent years, we've achieved double-digit year-over-year growth. And I feel like we will continue to do that with the investment in our people, the investment in our facilities, and a strong sales presence in the market. I don't know that I ever saw us getting to a certain size, but I knew that we would continue to grow because of the passion behind the executive team and the leadership team and where they wanted to take the company.